after Citizens United, a company that had a huge net profit, and we have some very, very large companies, can spend a small fraction of those net profits and basically flood out the voice of millions of Americans. It goes back to this issue of and by the people, for the people, versus powerful. And to give you if we take what Exxon made as a net profit in 2012, during the presidential year, if they had spent 6% of that in the presidential campaign, they would have spent as much as all the rest of America in every form of the presidential year. One company, one boardroom, I don't know how many board members they have, it's a dozen or 25, but one board decision. And both the potential to do that, or to do that in governor's races, U.S. Senate races, House races, or take the Koch brothers and the money that can come from the coal and oil companies, it shifts and it is a corrosive, corrupting influence, that size of money outweighing millions of Americans on democracy. And so that I have a huge concern about it. I have sponsored a couple different versions of amendments, and scholars keep coming forward and wrestling with how you do this just right. One version of amendment that I sponsored was Tom Udall's, which said basically Congress has the power to regulate the raising and spending of corporate campaign funds, or campaign funds, I think in general say. But in the near term, a constitutional amendment is not going to get a supermajority in the House and Senate. And there are some very real things that can be done right now. And in your comment, I think I heard you say that an owner should have a right to know how the money is spent. Did you say that?
I would endorse that.
Okay.
I think they have the right to insist that it not be spent to express views of government.
So the SEC could tomorrow say that if you are an owner of a company, you have a right to know how they spend their political funds on both campaigns and lobbying. That would create transparency through the vast bulk of the enterprises and of the big enterprises in America. That could be done tomorrow. And then the 501c4 loophole merits examination. Now, there are folks who said, you know, we want to use a charitable structure to do our political activity. And they found just the right vehicle. Because the law for the 501c4 social welfare organizations says the money has to be spent exclusively on social welfare activities. And the IRS, when they wrote the regulation to implement it, has a sentence in the regulation that says exclusively means primarily. That's Orwellian. The regulation changes 100% standard into a 50% standard. And that is the loophole that's been taken advantage of, and it's by groups on the left and groups on the right. There's nothing, because there are folks who donate throughout the spectrum who like the anonymity of the social welfare loophole. But if you're going to have transparency, you have to have it across the spectrum. And so I've been advocating that we close that loophole, so political spending goes through political vehicles, not through wealth. Not through charitable vehicles. Those two things can be done now with no legislation. Then we could have passed the Disclose Act. We had 59 votes twice for disclosure of timely disclosure on all political donations. We couldn't get the 60th vote to close debate. This goes back to the challenge we have, and I appreciate your applause on the filibuster comments at the beginning, but that is only a start, because we only got changed the piece related to nominations. The legislative side, we are still paralyzed on, and so much more to do on that. If we'd had that, if we had had a situation where 41 folks said that they want more debate, one of them has to actually stand up and debate, and the American people could have seen senators defending secrecy for a week or so, I think we would have gotten our 60th vote. But we didn't. And so I'm still pushing for reforms in that area. Anyway, I've probably said enough on it for right now, but I want to keep examining the different versions of the constitutional amendment side. But parallel to that, I think we need to be pushing the administration, the executive branch, to do things that could be done right now.